I think as an artist, for me, what's most important, and maybe as a human being too, like I think I just have a hard time when people might feel boxed in by societal pressures or expectations, and like what we see on media or read in books, or just whatever small town we might live in or big town, to think a relationship has to look a certain way, genders need to be performed in a certain way. I always question why that is. Like, why can't we have broader experiences as human beings? Why can't men have more range with their feelings and sensitivities and be able to have a broader experience with their emotions? And why can't women like Betsy, who have their hair cut really short, like every time she walks into the women's restroom, sometimes she'll get called sir and you need to leave, but that's because her hair is super short and she looks really androgynous. But why can't a woman have super short hair and look androgynous? So I think my work has always tried to question why we have societal expectations and standards, and why relationships need to look a certain way, and to kind of shake that up so there's more freedom for people later. One time we were making pictures and she was laying on a bed that had a really scratchy, light brown, tan comforter, and she's nude. And immediately I thought about this Edward Weston photograph of Charis laying on the sand, because she was laying in a similar pose. Once I saw Betsy laying on the bed like Charis, I found 2 books by Charis Wilson, California and the West, and then her autobiography, Through Another Lens, My Years with Edward Weston. And once I read California and the West, I was just hooked on Charis as a person. This was taken on the property of her in, I think, 1943. So I think trying to get closer to Charis in a way was just me trying to figure out how close you could get to a model, or what else you could learn about a model by being in the places that they've been. I think there's only so much you can learn about someone through photographs, and you're really learning also about the photographer who photographed the subject. So how Edward photographs Charis is one version of Charis, and it's really how he sees her. So in a way, how I first learned about Charis was through Edward's eyes. I absolutely love being on the road. Like, as soon as I get far enough outside of Chicago and it's more open space and I'm just driving, I feel my whole body relax. It's kind of like you're free from your normal responsibility, and you're also in between places. You're not grounded in somewhere else. You're in a transitional zone, which I really enjoy. I had no idea what Betsy and I would find if we went out west to go to the places where Charis and Edward made work, but I was interested in going on that journey to see not just places where they lived, but places where Edward had photographed, where I knew Charis was right by his side, typing on her typewriter or making her own notes for the project she was working on for California and the West. By the time Edward photographed Charis in Winter Idol, they both may have guessed that after spending more than 10 years together, that their relationship was coming to an end. In the photograph, Edward stands far from Charis, far enough that he would have to speak loudly when directing her. The camera-to-subject distance grew between them over the years, as the emotional distance between them swelled. The physical closeness of the first nudes taken in Edward's studio in Carmel that were close enough for a whisper, close enough to feed the heat and energy between their bodies, was replaced by the comfortable distance of companions in love during their first years spent together, to the final images, just as ones like this seem, that depict Charis as desirable, but far away and out of reach. She leans back in a swing, her arms lifted as she holds the ropes, her left arm hiding her face, and in doing so, we are able to see her sun-bathed body and short hair, but unable to read the emotion on her face. She is in a timeless place, suspended in a pause between her life with Edward and the life that lay before her without him. Arno Raphael Minkinen once told me that re-photography projects or revisiting projects are so great because you feel like the person is right there with you, and it's so true. It's a way to feel close to someone, but it's kind of strange because I've never met this person. I've seen her talk on videos, I've heard her voice, I've seen pictures of her, but I've never met her, so why am I, or any other photographer for that matter, want to get so close to someone and try to feel their presence when they're no longer here? I'm just eternally intrigued by why someone would photograph another person for years and what they're trying to learn from that process. I think sometimes when I take pictures, I can learn about what's going on in the relationship through the picture. I've always loved looking at pictures made by other photographers of their significant others or wives and trying to figure out what's going on in the relationship between them and what energy was captured between them. So that seems endlessly fascinating, but it also seems like a puzzle because it's not revealing everything and you're seeing it through the interpretation of the photographer, but also the energy that was there. And sometimes what's captured is really not true. It's not true at all. It's like that's the picture, but what was going on in their lives is, photography is always a fiction.
That's good. Look up.